Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Stories.
Sunday stories, Sunday stories, Sunday.
My name is Sid Smith. This is a show with the goal to bring religion into a new light and perspective. Although it's called Sunday Stories, it's not like going to church with grandma. The show is meant to bring religion in a new, fun, exciting way. Because I really believe that once we understand what religion is and why we believe certain things and why we're all so different, it can kind of bring us to a certain point to connect as well. Last week I shared about my story when I was a missionary in Africa about 10 years ago. That one may be a little bit harder to watch because it wasn't edited as well as I had planned for it to be. It was a little bit on the spot. For a while I was trying to figure out how can I share my story and connect with others and also learn about other religions at the same time. Ever since I was a wee little lass, I've always had an interest in religion and culture, and I feel like being able to learn more about that and being able to hear other people's stories, it connects us even closer together and brings even more of a fascination. For today's topic, I want to talk about why people believe. What makes someone form a belief? Why do so many people believe in different things? Are religious beliefs helpful or harmful? And what's the science behind believing anyway? As a disclaimer, I do not have a degree or a certification, so I believe that if you want to look up the facts for yourself, that you should also do that as well. But my information comes from personal experience and from books from people who have studied these topics. I will cite my sources below. Anyway, let's get started. So within my personal experience, as I explained in the last video, I was going through a lot of stress and it was just a very hard time, but I felt like the source came to me at a time when I really needed it and pointed me into a direction that really changed my life. I believe the source was Jesus and that the Holy Spirit was trying to have an interaction with me. There was always something deep down that made me really question, is this really what I think it is? Is my mind just going through something at this time? What is it that I can counter argument against this experience? I obviously still went with my convictions and went to Africa as a missionary and preached to people and believed at that time that I was doing the right thing for God. There was still that question of why does everybody else have different beliefs? Why am I supposed to be pushing my thought pattern and my belief pattern on somebody else who doesn't believe the same way? Especially when they've been in an environment where they just grew up differently. Their culture is different, they speak a different language. They just have different traditional patterns of their life. And I knew I was going against myself by not being supportive of those people as well and really actually listening to their stories either. Even though the question of which religion is the truest religion may never be fully answered, there is this common ground of faith that people just need to have a faith to believe in something, that it is real to them and that what they believe is true enough for them to follow. And there's some people who choose not to have faith or choose not to believe in one particular thing. So then the common ground is also the conviction of what you choose and how you want to live your life. In my circumstance anyway, I really felt like I was supposed to just follow everything that God said and that everything that I was hearing in my mind was from God. And even if it made no sense, that I was still supposed to do it. And while it was also a very interesting time of my life and I learned a lot of things and I did a lot of stuff and it was really enriching, I think that I would have also, done better by questioning more what was going on and to not just be blindsided, because you can get trapped in a certain patterns of thought that are not beneficial to you. But as we will see, believing is just a part of our DNA. Imagine you're an early human before civilization began. Your main mode of understanding the world around you is through your senses and from cause and effect from what has happened before. You're going out to gather berries or to hunt for an animal, and as you do that, you hear a rustling in the bushes around you. What would be your first thought? Is it the wind? Or is something in the bushes about to attack you? In this situation, there's no absolute to any of it could be true, so we prepare for the worst. The example I just shared with you is from the book The Believing Brain by Michael Shermer. In this book, he talks about something called patternicity, which is when the brain takes patterns or logical sequences and turns them into a story that makes sense to us. Our brains apparently have no way of detecting errors, which is a result of making a type 1 or type 2 error, or false positive or false negative error. Let me explain this one because this one's a little tough. Have you ever been to a courtroom or watched something on TV and the verdict says guilty or not guilty? It's only really based on how much evidence there is to support whether the person should be guilty or not guilty. There is no absolute that someone actually did commit the crime or not, but the evidence shows possibly that they did not commit the crime, so someone would say not guilty. This strategy is used also in hypothesis testing. So usually someone would come up with a original hypothesis of what they believe will be an outcome. And then they have hypothesis to disprove the original hypothesis. There can be 4 outcomes to hypothesis testing, but for specific with type 1 and type 2 error, the result of a type 1 error would be rejecting the original hypothesis when the original hypothesis is true. The decision would be incorrect. A type 2 error would be the result of not rejecting the original hypothesis when the alternative hypothesis is true. Many of us use this pattern of thinking without even realizing that we do. That's science for you, baby. So if we go back to that example of being an early human out in the woods, hearing rustling in the bushes, our original thought would be to just prepare for danger. And this also applies to anything, like including superstition and magical thinking. When we look at the original beliefs of human beings, we find that they believed in animism, which is a belief that all circumstances, places, people, creatures, things in the world have some type of spirit to it. But if we take a look at how patternicity works in the brain, how we're able to connect different sequences and make stories out of it, and even using type 1 and type 2 errors to just make sense of our world around us, things like this make more sense. So the question is, did they actually really see something, or was it just a pattern in their brain? Most polytheistic religions have similar pantheons. Many of the ancient cave drawings have depictions of these different beings coming to speak to them, and they're tall beings talking to them. I don't mean to go all ancient aliens or anything, even though my hair is kind of doing a thing right now.
Aliens!
This is statistical data that was taken from Americans who are 18 years or older, whether they believe in theories or myths or God. And as you can see, there's still a lot of people who believe in these things. And you have to realize that America is only one part of the whole world. Maybe the data would possibly be less in Europe, but it still doesn't take account of the whole world, who still has many practices that they follow and still hold on to their traditional beliefs. So again, the question is, did they actually see something? Did they actually have a reason for believing in these things? In my personal opinion, I believe that it could be a result of both occurrences. Maybe there really was something going on, but also maybe there's something that we saw and just attributed to it being something supernatural because we couldn't understand it. But as I go further along in this show and in my studies, I really want to find out more of these answers. At the end of the day, whether you believe or not, it's still a part of the human experience to go through these things. And I believe we should at least take the plunge and go for an adventure. Anyway, I'm going to end this here. Thank you so much for watching if you watched the whole thing. This is my 2nd episode, and I took more time to go through everything and try to process my thoughts better. Also try to edit this to make it more enjoyable. If you could like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it because it would help inspire me to do more videos in the future, make them better, and also even have possibly a budget to create better videos. I also want this to be a safe space between people like me who really don't know what they exactly believe in. Like their mind is just like all over the place and they realize that there's truth in everything. But I've been shunned by a lot of people who have told them that they're wrong and that they just need to like submit and just go to church or do whatever they're supposed to do instead of asking questions. I feel like it's controlling and manipulative to not be able to ask questions and to further our knowledge. So anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.